boy, do I like goofy wrestling for life. Comes as no surprise if you have watched a lot of my content. And essentially, I felt like Dynamite lent right into that last night on the show. And somebody said to me, Simon, do you think that's the best Dynamite of the year? My brain's not that great. I have to sit down and really research about it. But I think in terms of start to finish, it was right up there. And ultimately, it made me happy. It's kind of how I felt after Raw this week too. Just storylines that I'm interested in, characters that I can support, other characters that I can hate. Nothing too overly complicated and sort of telling you where they are going without banging you over the head with it. I got nothing wrong with that. Also, if you are watching this video, please do subscribe and interact with the video as much as possible. I would always massively appreciate it because we are here just to talk about wrestling and remind ourselves that while it is the most important of the least important things, it's also damn brilliant. We should celebrate it as much as possible. Sometimes also be like, well, that kind of sucked, but who cares? But yes, after Samoa Joe had officially become the #1 contender for the AEW World title, essentially AEW just lit into stuff they always do around Halloween because Tony Schiavone was out there dressed as the Phantom of the Opera and he's getting Samoa Joe to sign the deal. Then all these people that we had seen throughout the evening, they had been introduced to this episode dressed as what had the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man, which of course ties into AEW lore. There was a chicken, there was a cow, there was someone dressed as some meat or something like that. I can't remember now. But they all come out to celebrate for no good reason. Of course, Samoa Joe and the opportunities beat them up, but also Samoa was doing it because like, well, clearly the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man is Hangman Adam Page. All promotions have done this. It really tickles me because of course he wouldn't do it twice, and yet the heel will always assume I bet he is trying to copy and paste, takes off the mask, whatever you want to call it, punches a random dude in the face, and then yes, this was one big distraction tactic so the real Tony Schiavone could leave and Hangman Adam Page dressed up as Tony Schiavone could get in the ring. There's clips on the internet right now of him just stood there, obviously not saying anything because that was playing over the loudspeaker, imitating Tony. And eventually his voice comes in. He turns around, he smashes a bottle over Samoa Joe's head, which is an insane thing to do. He kicks everybody else in the groinal region. And as Tony, dressed as Tony Schiavone, who is, no, we phrased that, as the Phantom of the Opera, who was dressed as Tony Schiavone, I'm getting this all wrong, but you know what I'm saying here, hits a buckshot lariat. So it's Hangman as Tony, who was the Phantom of the Opera. You're never going to see that again. That's like meta levels. And he whips Samoa Joe's ass. And listen, you can break this right down, no matter what you think about it. The babyface was smart, and the babyface outdid the heel. 9 times out of 10, you do need that. Otherwise, like, why would I support you, you good guy? You're absolutely useless. Samoa Joe sold this wonderfully. And yes, it does go back to that crazy match, which was supporting the Ghostbusters movie, I presume. It was so long ago. One of my favorite matches AEW has ever done. But I just love the fact that you could put all these things together. We had a historical thing in there with the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man. We ensured the heels got theirs. I'm sure Samoa Joe will get his revenge next week. Hangman Adam Page, once again, ties into stuff that he's done in the past. He is the master of disguise. Samoa Joe even said that once he had revealed the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man. Something along the lines of, oh, you're not as crazy as you once were, cowboy. I just think this stuff is absolutely terrific. I'm not saying you want to do this in every single main event angle, but I think especially when you've got a themed episode called Fright Night, whatever the flub AEW called it, you should at least give it a go. If it's not for you, totally respect it, totally understand it. It had me grinning ear to ear like the Cheshire Cat. I was gleeful, right? I was joyful, and all those kind of words. My big thing, and I don't want to repeat myself as I have done in other videos, is always just allow wrestling companies to do whatever they want and then judge it on its own merit, right? Don't just sort of prejudge it because it may not be for you because you never know. You don't know what mood you're going to be in. But if we hadn't have done this, it would probably just have been another, I don't want to say lame because sometimes the stereotypical wrestling angle can be fine, but it would have felt very by the numbers, very 101. We've seen this time and time again. Whereas this was essentially taking something that we are used to, but putting a modern flavor or at least a new flavor over the top. I thought it ruled. And fair play to everybody involved for doing it. It made me feel good. As did the main event itself. Now listen, Hook being in it was ridiculous. I'm a big fan of Hook. I think he gets a lot of unnecessary criticism. There's this horrible idea in 2025 that you have to be the very best. And if not the very best, we're just going to find things to sort of pick holes in you and stuff. I very much enjoy watching Hook. I like it a lot. Entrance music's a bit weird, but why not have weird entrance music? But there's no way you can justify him being in the #1 contender match for the world title. I can't even remember the last time he won a singles match. I mean, maybe I'm forgetting. Even if it was on Collision, I've already deleted that from my brain. It's not really enough. You want people in there with momentum, especially because Bobby Lashley absolutely made sense. Of course, Samoa Joe did because he attacked Hangman Adam Page last week. Ricochet, I was kind of 50-50 on, but Ricochet was so damn good in this thing. And Ricochet should be at this level. Like, there is a contingent of people that have decided that I guess they're just the WWE grifters. And yes, there's AEW ones too. People like to pretend it's one side. Trust me, I have a social media account. Come follow me, Simon316. It's both sides, depending what's happening in the news. But Ricochet was terrific during this. Like, generational talent for sure. And opened the door for so many people to mimic him, which kind of influence the style of wrestling as we continue to evolve in the future. I don't want to call him Flippy Dippy Doodah, although I will, because I think that's funny, because it's way more than that. Just brilliant. And Bobby Lashley carries a certain aura to him. Samoa Joe is just the man. Listen, Hook was great in this, told a simple story, tried to throw big men around, wasn't able to, finally got the big suplex on Hook. Everybody went crazy. Ricochet, I think, remembered towards the end, oh yeah, I hate the Hurt Syndicate. So he hit Bobby Lashley with a chair. That got Bobby Lashley away from the ring. Samoa Joe applies the Coquina Clutch on Hook, gets the victory before we went into the post-match shenanigans. I think maybe down the line, it all depends on MJF is coming back, but Bobby Lashley should be challenging somebody for the World Championship. Maybe it will be an MJF given their past history, and I still think Bobby is more of a face than he is a heel, especially given his tie to the Hurt Syndicate. But a really, really good main event. Like, even though the justification to get Hook in there was a bit wibbly-wobbly, still played his part, still had a story here because, of course, he was going after Samoa Joe, who had betrayed him, even though he hadn't betrayed him. We thought Hook was going to go heel. Turns out it was Samoa Joe, and Hook knew that all along, which is... He did actually say to him, all those weeks ago when he did first come back, there's something not right here. So maybe Tony Khan had been planning this for ages. So that deserves a pat on the back. But just a great main event. Like, really, really good. I don't think there was any jeopardy there. I don't think anybody actually thought we weren't going to do Hangman versus Samoa Joe 2. But actually giving him a victory to get him back in that scene and then doing everything with the contract and the Tony Schiavone fan of the opera, I just thought it was a terrific end to Dynamite. Like, I had such a good time, and I suppose, if it had just ended with Samoa Joe winning, maybe I would have felt lesser than, but it didn't. It's like that Batman game wouldn't be good if Batman wasn't in it. Well, he's in it, and we did get that ending, which meant when I went back and thought about the match, it retroactively got better too. And I'm going intrigued to see what we do with Ricochet during this. He should probably be going after a championship. He's just great. Like, he's so damn good. As was his entire match. Like, genuinely, and it does tie into the whole episode of Dynamite. I don't think they missed. Because we also had this ridiculous segment with the Don Callis family. Like, once again, there were similar tie-ins here because it's just taking old school wrestling logic and just putting a new flavor in the mix. Why they had a Don Callis family summit where you have tables and name placards? What a crappy family. Who wants to be involved in that family? Can you imagine, oh man, we got to go do this with dad. I just want to play Nintendo, man. And everybody stood up, Rocky Romero, Josh Alexander, and Carl Fletcher were explaining why the Don Callis is so great. It did feel a bit like a cult. Like, none of us needed to know this information, but they decided to share it anyway. But it was all just building towards the end. Because the whole time they'd been lying, like, oh, Takesha's not coming, he's got travel problems. Out comes Takesha. Don Callis essentially says, listen, I'll get rid of you if you aren't going to be a benefit to this family. Goes to shake Okada's hand. Okada mugs him off. They're going to have a fight probably at whatever the next pay-per-view is. Full Gear? And then at World's End? I mean, you could do it at both, to be honest with you. But it was just fun. And it was just entertaining. And I thought everybody in this family was deliberately obnoxious in the way that they should have been. So when Takesha did come out, who, of course, let's not forget is the IWGP champion, you were like, yeah, get him, Takesh, whatever Don Callis called him. Whoop these people's asses. And Okada's been on fire recently too, so I think when you get their match, you could even have Okada win the first one, courtesy of the Don Callis family. That's when Takeshita gets kicked out, and then he can win that one back. It's going to be interesting politically because, again, he is the New Japan champion. And are they going to do Okada versus Takeshita over to New Japan? I mean, you could do it for Wrestle Kingdom. People would go nuts, but I very much doubt it. Although that would be a way to have Okada win the first one, say, listen, you can do it again over there. And people would pop for that too. People would be very excited about it. But I saw somebody call it a WWE angle. I can't stand that. I think you have to allow all wrestling companies to have some fun. I mean, just because you grew up on WWE, because they're only game in town for 20 years, doesn't mean they weren't borrowing their ideas from somebody else as well. I just thought this was a great way to establish there are bunch of pricks, don't use those words like that, kids, be much more better-mouthed than me, and that Takeshita is the guy that's about to leave. We all know he's going to leave, but we're just going to tiptoe around it for now. It was just good. I don't even have anything else to say about it. It was just like a lot on this Dynamite. Get the job done. Which was the same for setting up all the blood and guts matches. I mean, we start with the men's one. But we had Darby Allin and Orange Cassidy taking on the Death Riders, and the good guys won there as well. And then later on, you had John Moxley versus Kyle O'Reilly Part 2 that ended in a count-out. But again, AEW doesn't often do stuff like that, so it did hit harder. But the amount of stories that we told during this, like Darby Allin absolutely has the Riders of Death number at the moment. John Moxley is a scaredy cat. Don't go near his leg. It's like, oh no, I had to tap out a Wrestle Dream. I don't want to do it again. And it all just ends in a big challenge for Blood and Guts, because after every single match, out come the Death Riders, out come the Conglomeration, and they all start to fight, and they're basically done with it. Mark Briscoe is playing like triple duty at the moment because he's going after the TNT title too. So he hates the Death Riders and he hates the Don Callis family for understandable reasons. But both matches were good. We started with that tornado tag with Daniel Garcia and Wheeler Yuta on the other side. Obviously, Wheeler Yuta tapped out to the sharpshooter. Scorpion Deathlock. I think I said sharpshooter on What Culture, where I freelance for too. The Ups and Downs series, of course. Going to get in trouble for that, my stupid brain. But it's interesting because you could have a Judgment Day scenario here. I think John Moxley has to be removed. Maybe Claudio takes over. And that way we can start moving Daniel Garcia up a little bit because he has just picked the worst time to join this group. Now, some people go, oh man, that sounds terrible. I disagree. Again, if I had told you that Rhea Ripley and Damian Priest were going to leave the Judgment Day, but oh man, it has to be done. But we found a way to make it work and we continue to add members in. Maybe they're on their last legs now. And Claudio Castagnoli could do that role, sort of silent assassin, and then, Daniel Garcia could be featured more. I am speculating, but I think something big may happen at Blood and Guts. And again, John Moxley's downfall, ever since the pay-per-view, has been great. He was the big bad. We then exposed his armor, and now he doesn't know what to do anymore. Like he's a giant scaredy cat, like I say. So it's just fun to watch. And once again, it almost makes everything we have seen feel even better because now we are seeing the continuation of that. And while Darby Allin's just sort of, I'm going to cut a promo last week, was a bit weird, at least he's sticking true to his promises. I'm not done with the Death Riders, and until I chop the head of the snake properly and they aren't able to grow back, I'm going to be on their ass. So it was just two really good matches. Some people don't like the Conglomeration's new entrance music and theme. Of course, more power to you. The best thing ever. It's just so dumb. I think I need more of this. Maybe as I age and I get older, and of course I want serious wrestling. But mostly, I think I operate in a very week-to-week system at the moment. In the sense, I go to Dynamite, I go to Raw, I go to SmackDown. Then I kind of draw a line under it, and I go to Raw, I go to Dynamite, I go to SmackDown. And as long as you entertain me, as long as you put a smile on my face, as long as you make my day a little bit better, I'm probably going to be like, I'm on board with this. And that's what the Conglomeration's music does. Also, a big fan of this kind of mini push for Kyle O'Reilly. Because he's held his own so well against John Moxley, it does feel like he's elevating himself a little bit, and he's not really won. Like basically won via disqualification and now been in a draw, if you want to call a double count out that. There's probably going to be a third match. Maybe we save it to the Blood and Guts itself. We know that Blood and Guts is going to be crazy. Blood and Guts is always going to be crazy. And of course, this year, it feels like we've got a women's one too. Bravo to AEW, because I think they did tie into the women's tag team stuff. Well, they did that a lot, right? Because you had the first round match between the Triangle of Madness and Jamie Hayter and Queen Emanata. It got me. I thought the babyfaces were going to win, but no, technically there's a spear that nobody saw until the replay, which obviously takes Jamie Hayter out of the game and allows the Triangle of Madness to become a double team. And they had the numbers game. They got the 1, 2, 3 after their spinning suplex sidewalk thingamajig. And we know they're heading to Blood and Guts as well. We've made that very clear. But you also had the Mercedes and Chris Statlander fight as the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man looked on, which was the greatest thing ever. They go to the ring. Out comes Willow and Harley to make the save. Now, we know we're getting Chris versus Mercedes. That has been established. And we know we're getting Athena joined in as well. We know we're getting Athena and Mercedes taking on Harley and Willow, who came out to make the save. So not only with that first round tag team match, we're obviously getting into the Blood and Guts stuff. Here you have a world title match, but we're also getting the tag teams getting involved because they're going to have a match in the tag team tournament. That's a good way to book a show. And not everybody has to be on a singular path. You can involve them in multiple things as long as you keep reminding the audience this is what they're going to do. I know that Jamie Hayter has already done the challenge for Blood and Guts. She did it back in like 2004 for some reason. What those teams are going to be, I don't know. I mean, Jamie Hayter, obviously Queen Emanata, and obviously the Triangle of Madness on the other side. So we need two more over there. But also on this show, poor Penelope Ford, man. She's been having a great 2025, like the glue of everything. She's been taken out of the game, I think, with an arm injury, so all the best to her. I hope she's back soon. But Megan Bain and Marina Shafir are now a team, so they could also be put in the Blood and Guts match as well, because that's terrifying. John Moxley watched this too, and he was like, yes, yes. You've never seen anybody so happy. But the tag match was good. I'm very invested in these women's tag team titles. I just think, the best thing about having brand new belts is as long as you start off strong, you can elevate them, and then it's your job to keep them up there. But having the heels win a surprise in the first tournament match was like, well, now I'm not sure on any of them. Of course, you can argue the counter. Well, we've already seen the surprise, but we don't know. I think it creates jeopardy for the whole thing. So that was good. But to also get the world title stuff in there and to remind you that we're getting women's Blood and Guts, I think that's on a Dynamite, right? Blood and Guts. that is going to be a horrific show because the women will want to go crazy to prove, like, yeah, we can do it. It's been too long. And all the men's ones have been disgusting, and John Moxley and Darby Allin are in it. So they're going to try and drain the other person of blood like vampires. But really good ways, I suppose, to not only tell you that Full Gear is coming, you should be excited to that, but we also have this big Dynamite, wherever the flub they're going to do Blood and Guts, and you should get excited about that as well. Essentially, sat here in the end of October, there's multiple stuff for you to be pumped for. And I think no matter what the wrestling television show is, you want to get to the end of it, and you want to see the next one. Then you want to see the next one. That's both the pro and the con of having 52 weeks of TV a year. You always have to have that fish hook, and you always need to have that dangling string. And yeah, I just thought AEW did a really good job with it. I am glad that we featured Mercedes and Chris as well. Chris Statlander cut a promo where she was just like, oh, Mercedes, I'm going to be there at Collision when you take on, she's taking on a CMML talent. I can't remember the name, forgive me. And then we just cut, and yeah, they were just having a fight, and they brawled to the ring. The women's champion, you don't want to fall by the wayside. We want to make sure that they are presented in the same way that Toni Storm was, and of course the same way that major belts on the other side are too. I don't mind that Toni Storm wasn't on this. I saw some criticism. You can't have everybody on every show, and she is pivoting towards the tag team stuff, so the next time you see her can be with her duo with Mina Shirakawa. It's fine. Like, it really, really is, and I respect the fact we're trying to get Chris Statlander established at that level, because you can't just rely on Toni Storm forever. I said this on another video, and people went crazy. Please listen to what I say. Don't just hear words and then fill in the dots between them. She can be like The Undertaker, not in the sense it's one of the best gimmicks ever, although it certainly has the potential to be, but she doesn't need a championship. The Undertaker never needed a championship because the character and the gimmick were enough. Toni Storm has reached that certain level of star power too. There are so many stories you can tell within what she's doing. Sure, you can belt her up, but you don't have to. That's what I'm saying. At no point did I say that Toni Storm is the same as The Undertaker. That's what some person DM'd me. What are you talking about, Simon? It's like, well, you didn't actually listen, did you? You just reacted. I don't want getting so mad. As long as you care, what the flub do I have to worry about it? But it was a really good episode of Dynamite. I would try and go through the entire year, but definitely up there. By the time we got to the end of it, I was like, my only real negative was just the hook being thrown in that main event scene and the complete vanishment of Eddie Kingston, who's meant to be his friend. That's a strange one. I can't believe we haven't had the big Eddie Kingston promo since he has returned, but there could be a reason for it. Like, we should talk about it and criticize it for sure, but let's just make sure we leave that asterisk up in the air, because so many times I feel like people have jumped on the horse, then 2 days later we found out, oh, we have more information. It makes all the sense. But absolutely, from what we know now, I do think Eddie Kingston should be cutting a big promo on Dynamite, especially because that's their biggest show, and he should be setting up feuds. Maybe he doesn't want to do that, and again, I don't want to put Eddie Kingston in a position he doesn't want to do anything. Now, let me know what you thought about Dynamite in the comments below. Really good show, really fun. Got me all pumped up for the day, which is a weird thing to say, but that rhymes, so it must be true. Like the video, share the video, please do subscribe and hit the notification bell. Again, comments talked about that. Otherwise, grillermind.com/Simon, 30% off at the moment because it's a Halloween sale, so take advantage of that and use my code Simon to get those deals. Ships worldwide, it's great. And they got their brand new Gorilla Mode nitric capsules. So if you don't like pre-workout powder and you want non-stim, all these things are ticking the boxes. Patreon.com/Simon316. Support me on there and get my watch longs, only $5. And then there's something else, my fitness channel, and there's something else too. Forgotten, don't know. NordVPN.com/Simon Miller. Get yourself a deal. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Simon316 on social media. Simon on TikTok and Cameo. Again, all dumb videos at TikTok. Go watch them out. They're not going to be on YouTube anymore, I don't think. ProWrestlingTees.com/Simon Miller for merchandise. And that's it. Hope you have a terrific day. I'll probably see you at the weekend for Satellite's main event. Take care.